You know what I mean? Whatever. 374 episodes. We were gamers. Michael's here.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome back to Southern California. JJ's here.
I'm here.
We're all here. And you know what I realized? Today, I think you, me, and Michael can all soon probably sue ChatGPT.
Along with everyone else?
I'm just saying, we've done enough episodes of this podcast that I am sure they are scraping it and making our voices or doing something with it. You know what I mean?
The fact that we distribute this podcast on Spotify guarantees they have been scraping it and using it for their own AI stuff.
So,
we didn't opt out of that, to my knowledge.
We, without having done nothing, will finally make some money on this bad boy.
I would ask if Spotify could generate an episode of this podcast, but I don't think that it could deviate from the script enough to accurately represent us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you got to be able to just sort of drift on forever.
It could probably generate 10 minutes of audio issues, but that's like not the content it's here for, you know?
Yeah, well, we gave up on that recently. So, you know, maybe if it only scraped the most recent 100 episodes, it wouldn't. If it scraped the first 100, it would literally just talk about, maybe it would tell me what to do to fix our audio problems. I don't know. Who cares?
Unlikely. I don't find AI helpful in that specific way.
I don't find AI helpful, period.
Sorry, I should say large language models. Yeah. Not really AI.
Yeah.
We've covered this before, I think, right? Like,
I think we did.
None of this stuff that everyone calls AI actually has anything to do with artificial intelligence. It's just a bunch of like really good learning models that are good at reading. And not even reading like for comprehension, just literally like ingesting text.
Reading and they're aggregating.
And regurgitating text.
Yeah. It's Cliff Notes for the internet, right?
If you accept that Cliff Notes don't have any basis in like the thing that they're coming from,
sure,
and are not required to adhere to like facts,
yeah,
or any kind of
standards of any sort, yeah.
Well, we got a lot of internet chatter this week. Did you hear about the Sony hack? We missed talking about it because it happened the day of the last podcast.
Oh boy. Are we going to get a free month of credit monitoring and or some number of free games, Andy?
You could choose to do so, maybe. I don't know. It sounds a lot like
that's
last
the precedent.
time.
Last time my stuff got hacked. So
I got 2 free games, that one of which I already had played and the other one I never played. And nothing ever happened with my info on that one, but let's not jinx it this time around, I guess, right? How is it always Sony? That's what I want to know.
I don't have any answer for that. I just assume they must spend the least on IT. That's the only way I can assume that this happens.
Yeah. All right. Net neutrality might be making a return to the FCC.
That's the real classics of this podcast.
I know we've thrown it back, huh?
Only the old heads of We Were Gamers will remember when we used to talk about net neutrality all the time.
When we had years up to 2017 where we tried as hard as we could to tell people that it was kind of important and it was not quote unquote heavy-handed regulation, to tell people that broadband is a communications tool and basically should be considered infrastructure. But hey, we're going to be talking about it again, supposedly.
All right, great. Bring it back.
Yeah, let's do it again. Time is a flat circle.
Yeah, so time is a flat circle. And if we actually get anywhere beyond the new FCC chair saying, "Oh, we're thinking about it," we'll talk about it again, and we can come full circle on this podcast. Doesn't that sound fun?
Yes.
You know who did not make a full circle, JJ?
Uh-oh.
Half the F1 field in Japan.
It did feel like that, didn't it? We haven't done F1 in a bit. We got to talk about some stuff,
There's some stuff that has been happening. Sorry, Michael, but F1 has been on a roll, I would say. And I don't mean that in a pun sense. I really mean it.
But they've been constantly outdoing themselves.
Do we want to work our way backward, JJ?
Do any of the things from Japan depend on the previous race?
No, I'm just, let's work.
Okay.
Singapore? Yeah. I mean, Singapore finally saw Max Verstappen not win a race, I guess, is the big news there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And like he was bad.
Yeah.
And the funny thing I saw, which I do want to comment on this, because I saw a lot of people saying there was this technical directive that came out that they meant they had to do some certain things and they can't have wings that flex and all this stuff. People were talking like, oh, is this the thing that finally is defeating the Red Bull? That was a big talking point for that race, which was immediately mooted when the next race, when they came back and just destroyed everyone.
Hilariously destroyed the rest of the field the next week.
And so it's like, well, that clearly wasn't it, right? So I think the thing that is proven to be true is that the thing that was that street circuit is very bumpy because it's like real roads, you know?
Yeah, so maybe their car is too streamlined to be bouncing around.
They had to raise the car to deal with the unevenness of those roads. Because there is a rule that there's like a skid plate on the bottom of these cars now. Yep. And if you wear down the skid plate too much, you get in trouble, basically, because you're like endangering the drivers from making the car bounce all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's the fallout. I don't know, Michael, you remember the fallout from all the vibration last year where they basically were like killing the drivers' necks?
Yeah, they're shaking them apart, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. The fallout from that was, the cars went too low.
And so the thing that is clear here is that Red Bull can run their car lower than everyone else, except in places like this where they can't. And then when they can't, all of a sudden they look like crap, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere else, they just crank it down to the floor. They don't have the bouncing issues like everyone else, and then everything is fine, right?
Yeah. Fascinating. So yeah, it very clearly the car is not going to run well on any street circuits. So they'll probably have another bad race in here somewhere.
Or now they know about this, right? And they're going to start doing all the work to fix that one weakness, since they're the world killers. Right?
I think they could literally just take a year off from developing the car at this point.
Max Verstappen has we're talking about two separate races now.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're going to jump to Japan now, right?
Yeah, sorry, after the results of Japan, Max Verstappen could win the Drivers' Championship in the sprint race that's of this coming weekend.
So I don't know if you remember, Michael, but they do the sprint before the real race, and you earn points from a sprint, right?
Okay.
Just a few.
It's like a mini race on Saturday instead of the full race on Sunday, right? Yeah. Or it's not instead of, it's in addition to.
Yeah. I love the sprint. I liked the sprint more when it reset the starting grid.
It still does. Oh, no, sorry. Qualifying sets the grid for the race, right?
Yeah.
Not the sprint. Yeah, that's
not the sprint.
Cool.
That was the big change, right? Like the initial sprints reset the race, and then people were like, "That's not fair." Like,
yeah.
Okay.
So there's a decent chance that Max will win the world championship, and
during the
constructors and drivers championships will both be over before the next race even happens.
So I mean, in Japan, so how many races are left? 6.
Several, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of races left, Michael, but at this point, Red Bull has so many points that they have won the Constructors' Championship.
Wow.
Yeah, it's over already. They awarded. It's not so good. In terms of competition, great for Red Bull fans.
Oh, sure, yeah. If it's your team.
You're eating good if you are on
You love it.
Yeah, so let's see. September, Italy, Singapore, Japan. Where's the rest of the schedule? Oh, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was off by 1. I thought there were 6.
All right, yeah, pretty close.
But 5 races from the end, and you've already got the constructors locked up. That's crazy.
Yeah. Constructors was locked up last race, and the Drivers' Championship, first place anyway, looks to be locked up this coming weekend.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like sit your starters, right? Like, Who else we got? We got to try out for these last 4 races. Does Ricciardo start racing the Red Bull?
I don't know about that, but is he going to come back and replace Liam Lawson after Lawson has been kicking so much butt? Like, kind of making Ricardo look bad, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point. Michael, name some car companies, like car manufacturers, that to you scream race car. And I'll give you like the Red Bull's not exactly what you would consider, but like Ferrari, right?
Sure, yeah. Mercedes.
Name some. Mercedes, sure. Yeah, they're already in F1.
Yeah, who else? Lamborghini.
Sure, they would make a great F1 team. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Name one more.
Who else?
Anyone.
I don't know. I'll say Toyota.
Toyota. Okay, that'd be interesting. I mean, Honda makes engines, so that makes some sense.
Toyota has been involved in F1 in the past, so
yeah. We've got Porsche / Audi coming in a year or two, right?
Audi is coming. I don't know that Porsche is coming.
Oh, okay. I thought that. Well, I mean, Audi and Porsche are the same company, so.
Yes, but there was a rumored deal for Porsche for a long time to becoming as its own separate brand, partnered with Red Bull, and then that fell through, and now Red Bull is being sponsored by Ford.
Yeah, right. What if I said Cadillac?
Mm-hmm.
No, nobody. Is that a race car?
My money and my money on my mind.
I know where this is going, so that Cadillac isn't the side that anyone is interested in this, or I'm not anyway.
It's the Andretti side that you're interested in, right?
Yeah, I think so. Right? Have you heard of Andretti, Michael? Do you even know who that is?
It is a name that rings quite a few bells. Yes. Okay. As a racing family,
a storied family of racers there for sure.
Yeah. So the Andretti team has applied to join F1 as an 11th team, although so is Audi. So a 12th team. I don't know when the news of
Audi is buying the Sauber team that is currently Alfa Romeo.
Okay, so they're buying out Alfa Romeo. Okay.
Yes. And Alfa Romeo next year will not be called Alfa Romeo anymore. I forget what they will be. Something else. And then in 2026 they will be Audi.
Got it. So it's full on new team.
Yeah, so this will be
Andretti Cadillac. Fascinating.
Okay.
Yep. And not only did they apply to join, right? They were approved to join.
Quickly apparently.
I mean, it's been months.
Oh, they said I guess
since the original announcement. But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very curious to see how this will go, because the FIA, who are like the refs. I'm trying to think like what no sport is done this way. So I don't know how what's the governing body? It's like FIFA.
Hold on, no, it's more like an Olympic committee, right? Because they run multiple. The FIA doesn't just control F1; they control racing. They control lots of different racing. Yeah, so it'd be like World Tennis or FIFA. FIFA, maybe.
Yeah, maybe FIFA is the good example.
I don't know, but they're like a governing body for motorsport.
And they are the ones who approved Andretti Cadillac. And so now it goes to like the Formula One owners, Liberty Media and whoever their investors and all those people are, to negotiate between them and the teams and Andretti to get them on the grid.
Yeah.
And it's like, all along, the FIA people were like, oh, yeah, Andretti seems good. Thumbs up, dude. Like, been positive vibes there. And all the team people are just like sitting with their arms crossed and shaking their head. No. And they're like holding their hands out, looking for more money. Like, just all of this, like, no, get out of here. Like, yeah. So
very much in NATO, EU in miniature, right? Like, I'm just going to hold out till I get mine so that Sweden and Norway can join.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely one of those where it's like, but now we're splitting the prize pool 11 ways. That's not better for me. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, And so they're just like, well, you need to pay us a bunch of money then, definitely. And it's just like, is that how this works? Shouldn't this be a competition? You're allowing new people to join? Like what? I don't know. A cartel now? Is this? Yeah.
I think that if you score over 200 points in fantasy football, people should have to pay me money.
200 is a lot of points.
203 points. I'm just glad it didn't happen versus one of them kids. An adult
of fantasy football forever.
Yeah, it happened against an adult, so at least that part doesn't feel bad. How did everyone do this week in fantasy football? Well, since we're on sports, motorsports, it's sports. We might as well stay here.
I'm with it.
Yeah, I split this week. So I finally got a win in the one league in which I was winless.
Okay.
Which feels pretty good. Thank you, Christian McCaffrey, for all that you do.
Yeah, 48.7 points in
number one running back in fantasy.
Full
Maybe
PPR.
Like number one scorer in fantasy even? I don't even know. Dude has
I could pull it up while you're talking. But yeah, scoring leaders. Here we go. All positions. You keep going. Keep going. Don't.
My head-to-head league I lost this week. I needed Patrick Mahomes to do better than he did, and he did not. And then while Kenneth Walker III did well tonight, that's not enough to pull me out of the hole that he and T. Higgins getting injured in the first quarter dug me into.
Did Walker do well tonight? Because I'm playing against him still. McCaffrey is ahead by 17 points to Justin Jefferson, and it's not even close past that, really. Keenan Allen's up there, too.
That sounds right.
Yeah. McCaffrey is tier 0. Everyone else starts in tier 1.
S tier player.
Right. He's the S tier player. Everyone else is the A and below, right?
Yeah.
Kenneth Walker in my league got 79 rushing yards and a rushing TD, so that's pretty good.
Let me see how he did. He got the same, but
in my guillotine league, I am unlikely to be chopped because Herbert continued to get 25 points a game, and Kyron Williams had the ball for every snap of the Rams.
Finally. I picked him up a while ago, and I've just been hoping. But it was a nice week to see I took a page from your book. I grabbed Laporta off of the waiver wire in our league.
You did pretty great. I have no complaints.
9 points isn't terrible. He kind of equaled. I mean, Hunter Henry had 8, but neither here nor there.
Travis Kelce had 9, but that's still.
Yeah, I think it was that's a
low number for him.
It was a lower week for tight ends in general. There wasn't a huge breakout.
Kelce was too distracted by Taylor Swift, I'm assuming.
Oh, well, so I've taken your advice and benched my New England running back in favor of Kyron Williams, and
you just go ahead and leave him in there until that stops happening. Yeah,
exactly. And Anthony Richardson, Christian McCaffrey, Kyron Williams, AJ Brown, Puka Nacua, they score a lot of points, man.
Yeah, Nacua had a great week.
One of the websites that I read had an article about Puka Nacua, and there was a radio call from one of the teams that in the game that he was in, because he had like a walk-off touchdown or something, right?
His first NFL touchdown was this weekend, and it was an overtime walk-off win touchdown. Yeah.
The radio call was like, and Nacua goes for the touchdown or whatever. Puka Nacua, it means no worries. We win or whatever.
No.
And I was like,
oh no.
I don't know about this.
That's
oh no.
Well, that's a pretty good.
That dude is also a starter.
I mean, he better stay one when Cooper Kupp comes back next week, but I don't know. It's going to be a rough transition, I think, to try and feed that many mouths on that offense.
But good luck defending that.
I know. Good point. Yeah. Who do you cover?
Like, what do you do? Do you pull defenders off of Nacua?
You just
cover. Who do you want to torch you this week?
You just play zone and hope you get him to check down.
Or you just constantly blitz the quarterback and hope that Stafford can't get it off in time.
Higbee is like, feed me, feed me.
I saw an interesting stat that Stafford is the quarterback for the top 2 yardage seasons of all time for wide receivers.
Huh,
Is that
okay.
true?
Yeah.
Even with like Randy Moss and guys
No,
like that?
he had what's his name? Megatron when he was in Detroit.
Okay.
And he had
yeah.
Cooper Kupp last season.
Huh.
Those are the top 2 numbers, over 1,900 yards each. And Puka Nacua would be set to light those records on fire if he kept up his pace.
I just don't see how it's possible that
I don't either.
His production keeps up.
I
If
don't
nothing
either.
else, they will just eventually double cover him, and then
For someone else
Kyron
to beat
Williams
them.
keeps eating. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad I have both. Well, it sounds like we had an okay week. You know.
Yeah, I lost, but I'll be fine in the guillotine league, so I'm not too bad.
Yeah.
2-1 is a good place to be.
Your joke reminds me to tell you about the fact that my kids did wake up early enough for us to watch Toy Story Football, you guys.
All right.
That's right. That was this weekend.
That was.
How was that?
Gotta explain this.
Duke Kaboom did a halftime show. It lasted about 40 seconds. It was fun for the kids to watch. It was a little bit hard to watch as an adult. I mean, there was a lot of very silly things that were happening with the animation as it was trying to be done live. Like the ball would just sort of randomly hit the ground places and you'd be like, oh, it's incomplete. And then you'd hear the announcers be like, and that's a touchdown. And you're like, but the ball's on the ground back there in the middle of the field. They did a thing where they tried to have like the hands always look like they're toys, right? So you know that like action figure grip where you can put things in their hands?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? Like a Lego, like picture a Lego,
Yeah.
but like turn it sideways like an action figure. Okay, well, but the animation would follow where the arms of the people were. So often, you know, like people are tucking their hands into their like pocket in front of them. But the hands were still kind of like cupped in front of themselves, so that made for very awkward what are their hands doing moments. Multiple times you'd like watch all the players get close to each other in like a huddle, and the animation would start freaking out and all the heads would start bobbling like crazy. You know, it was, I would say, somewhat janky, but for the kids to watch it, like when the wider shots would come up and you'd see Andy's room, or like the little cute things like Slinky Dog was the 10-yard marker, right? And they had who did they have? They had Booger McFarlane and Drew Carter, like actual NFL announcers from ESPN that used to be players doing the announcing. And so they would make jokes about like, oh, that player almost ran over Slinky Dog. We got to like move him over, you know, or like, so they must have been watching both feeds or something, because they knew when things were touchdowns that like you wouldn't be able to tell. But there were cute things like that. And like, there was like NFL blitz fire when a player would break away, or the claw would set the ball. There was like really cute, side commentary by, I don't know if have you ever heard of Pepper Parsley? She's like a kid reporter. I think she's like 11 or 12, and she's done ESPN interviews before. They had her doing like sideline commentary. So it'd be like, oh yeah, we got Woody down here and he's doing what, and so that was kind of cute for the kids to do. I liked that they had trivia, like instead of commercials, they just had trivia up all the time. And some of it was Toy Story trivia, and some of it was football trivia. I think really though, the thing that stood out to me as good about it, instead of just janky and like I wouldn't watch this again, they must have either practiced or pre-written some jokes for the commentators. I assume the commentators were also wearing motion capture suits, So they had like their toys doing the things that people normally do during like ESPN broadcasts. They're like, oh, show me a stiff arm, Booger. And like he would stiff arm the guy, and then his toy would go flying to the ground in that like janky animation and flip over backwards, and its legs would disconnect from it and flop over its head. And then the announcer's like, let's not do that again. It was like not fun. You know, like it seemed like they might have actually been doing them in motion capture suits. I couldn't quite tell. But there were like really good pre-written jokes that were like Toy Story related jokes. And Katie and I literally could not control ourselves laughing. I could not tell if this was a pre-written joke or not. But at one point, the UFOs start flying around the field. And they were like, the three-eyed aliens started flying around, in spaceships.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the commentator's like, oh no, who knows? Are they going to try and steal the ball? Doing the like very kid-oriented jokes, right? Oh no, maybe the claw will tell them what to do. Oh no, this, oh no, that. And so then the UFOs kind of leave the scene, and we get back to the football. And Drew Carter goes, not sure if Aaron Rodgers was here to see those, but I hope he. We stared at each other like, did we hear what we thought we heard? Did they make an Aaron Rodgers is a UFO kook joke on this kids show thing? I couldn't believe it. It was the most. Anyway, there were a lot of those little like pre-written or aside jokes that seemed like they practiced them. I think it was cute to do one.
That's a perfect kind of joke though, because the kids that don't watch football aren't going to get that.
Yeah, they
super
absolutely. Absolutely. But I was surprised ESPN was willing to stand
burn
by
that bridge with Aaron Rodgers.
It was
not going on ESPN anyway already, right? Like, whatever.
It was good. There was a couple of those that were pretty good. I heard they did this with hockey last season. I could see watching it once a season, but it's definitely not up to snuff on like the we could just animate all these things and make them wacky and fun. But that was, I don't know. You have any questions about it? Because I tried to give you a full picture.
So what does the actual like game look like? You said all the players and stuff look like toys, but then how do they like?
They have enough.
Watching the play?
You were watching the game as if it had a skinned animation on top of it.
Okay, so you see that guy run a route and his little toy like bobbles.
His little toy bobbles along the route as best it can, keeping up with the animation. Yeah, it's like trying to live animate on top of it.
Okay,
you don't see like things coming through. It's not like the players underneath there and like the animations like you see 4 arms or whatever. But sometimes the animations can't keep up, or it doesn't know where the ball is, or things like that. Like so many times the ball would be like 3 different places on the field, or the players would all just sort of like run into each other, and then all of a sudden one of the players would be further down the field, things like that.
Yeah, where clearly whatever their like tracking system loses it or whatever in the pile of bodies, or 2 dudes run past each other or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was literally
going to be tough to do in real time.
It was, I'm sure it's impossible. I mean, they must have put tons of production work into just this one game, right? I can't imagine how they could do it more than once a season.
And this game was the
London
game from England, right? Yeah, the London game. So was this being broadcast live with that game?
This was broadcast live at the same time as the game on Disney Plus. It was not on ESPN.
So you could have
had the ESPN feed up at the same time.
The ESPN feed at the same time. Okay, interesting.
It was just the field too, right? Like the stadium was not there.
Right. How could it be? Right. Like
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm like, it took place in Toy Story Land, right? Yeah. Toy Story isn't in London or whatever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know that. I mean, I would get up early or anything, but if you happen to cross it or something like that, it might be worth watching for 15, 20 minutes. And like I said, the jokes were good. But you know what was worth watching for more than 15 minutes, JJ?
Do tell.
The D&D movie that you told me to watch.
I accept all praise. Please tell me how right I am. I'm here to hear it.
Yeah. Okay. It definitely had one of those like, what? Why don't you just use the MacGuffin thing? Why are we doing the thing without using the MacGuffin thing? Which, Spider-Man had the same problem, so it's not a unique issue.
No.
Cute, very cute, very funny. Chris Pine did his thing. I don't know why they did the thing where they kept dubbing over him while he was singing. Very weird.
Yeah.
I assume they were making a joke that I didn't get.
It's like one of those I don't know what the D&D thing is, like player characters who play bards or whatever. Bards are always like bursting out into song or whatever.
Sure.
But like the person playing the bard can't sing.
Yeah.
Right? Like the bard himself can't sing, but then he rolls D20 and all of a sudden he rolls an 18 and is like a virtuoso performer, right? I think that's the joke there.
I do give the movie
Chris Pine probably just can't sing, maybe.
Who knows? I do give the movie some slack. I mean, it has the same problem as The Force, where they have that like portal wand thing in the middle of the movie. I won't say what happens so Michael can watch it, but like just use the portal wand thing, or like
Andy, that bit is over. Forget about that.
Yeah.
Quick,
or like the shapeshifter who like never shapeshifts unless like the story needs her to shapeshift, or the joke needs her to shapeshift.
Yeah, of course.
Tiefling.
The thing, druid, right?
Tiefling druid, yeah.
Yeah.
She was a tiefling.
I think, yeah. No, you're right. I think the important thing to remember about that movie is you have to come in with low expectations.
It's 1,000% not as dumb as it looked.
It will exceed them so much.
Right? Like I said, yeah, exactly what I said, right? It 1,000% succeeded as dumb as it looked. It looked so dumb.
I mean, in the build up to it, I was anti going to see this movie, right? Like I was like, I'm not going to go see this in the theater. It looks way too stupid. The last D&D movie was a train wreck. There's no way this one will be any good. They have friggin' Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez. This isn't going to work out. Like,
I like both of those people, but it just didn't seem like their movie.
Me too, right? I totally thought it was like, they're like, yeah, paycheck. Hello. Like,
yeah,
right?
That's the vibe, right?
Yeah. And so I was like, totally ready to check out and not go see it. It's like, who do they have as the villain? Oh my God, this is going to be a train wreck, right?
Yeah.
And like, no, I didn't need to go, see it in the theater. And then I was bored one night and was on HBO Max or whatever. And I was like, I'll put this dumb thing on. And we watched it together, my wife and I. And we were both laughing and it was like really funny. It was like pretty good.
I had a good enough time to watch the entire thing. No, like, oh, I got to finish it for the podcast. Just like, I feel like watching this. Like, I'm enjoying it enough to keep watching it. And story-wise, it's no worse than any D&D or D&D related video game story, right? Like, they're all kind of that way.
Yeah, look.
You chase your tail because that's what you're supposed to do in D&D.
It didn't win any awards for screenwriting, and don't go in expecting movie of the year stuff.
Sure,
but
sure,
it was a great depiction of that stuff.
Yeah. Should the Baldur's Gate script get a screenwriting award? It's not screenwriting, but
video game writing, I guess. I don't know. I'm not far enough in to make any calls on that, and I think it might be impossible to answer that question.
Oh, do tell.
The thing I can't emphasize enough. So I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3. I finally did it.
No.
Folks, I know.
Hey, fired it up.
This feels like a tabletop D&D game.
That's a good thing, right? Or is it not a good thing?
Yeah. No. It's a good thing, but I don't know how to say it better than that.
Okay.
If you haven't played one of those, it's a very different feeling to like playing a video game. It doesn't feel like, or at least so far, I'm only in the first act. I don't feel like I'm playing a video game. I feel like I have to approach things like I'm playing a tabletop game.
Oh, like you got to pre-measure your movement kind of thing? Like what do we mean?
Yes, to some degree, right? Like, oh, I can only move 30 feet in a round. The little arrow turns red after this and my character stops here, right? To that level, that part is true. It's enforcing all the rules, right? Like you can't just be like, you can get there, it's fine. Like that part doesn't fly. But the that tree is over on a little island over there, and I can't get there from here. Like you can't swim in the water. It's a poison bog or whatever. How do you want to get over to that tree? Well, in D&D, there's 15,000 different ways to solve that problem.
Right? Want to make a agility check to run along the rocks.
Sure, you can jump over a series of small rocks, right?
Yeah.
You can cast fly. You can cast any number of other weird spells that let you walk on water, let you breathe water, let you heal from poison, let you do any of all these other things.
One would assume, though, I'm sorry to cut you off, but one would assume, though, that your character build would not give you 15,000 options.
No, but that's why you have a party.
Oh.
Right?
Good point.
Like a tabletop game, there are people and they're with you and they can do things that you can't. Now, could you bring a party of 3 fighters with your fighter character and then not have any options available to you? Yes, the game allows it, right? You could make a party of a bunch of fighters and then not have any bonus options available to you. Although, depending if your strength score is high enough, you might just be able to jump, right? Like you can jump pretty far if you're strong.
Sure.
But, why wouldn't you have a wizard? Wizards are cool. And they can do all kinds of crazy stuff, like cast spells like fly, or spells that make you immune to poison, so you just walk through the poison water, or any number of other weird things, right? Hey, you just killed that guy. Do you want to talk to him? There's a spell that lets you speak with dead. You can cast it on every dead body in the game.
I saw that in that movie.
And Andrew, it goes just like that.
Oh, does it really?
It can.
That's hilarious.
And the game is reactive enough to know if you're the person who kills them, they're not going to be super forthcoming with information.
Can you intimidate a dead body? I don't think so.
No, you can't. But if you shoot that guy with an arrow and then walk over and ask him who killed you, he's like, you. He's like, what? Where do you keep your secrets or whatever? He'll be like, why would I tell you? There's generic questions you can ask all the dead people, but you can legitimately find stuff out from you walk into a village and a bunch of the villagers are dead. You go over and talk to the dead body and you find out that a bunch of goblins were there and which direction they went. And if you go that direction, there's a bunch of goblins there and you can kill them and get their stuff back, right?
Avenged. It's sevenfold.
Every direction you walk feels like you're in a little D&D session, right? And it's you wander into this grove of druids. I'm not spoiling anything here. There's this all stuff very quickly that you find in the game. And the druids are having a problem. There's a bunch of tieflings coming in from the woods and they're trying to escape these goblins. What are you going to do? The druids want to kick them out because they don't like the tieflings. The tieflings are all bad and they have horns. And the druids are, this druid is maybe a shadow druid. That's bad. All this stuff, right? It's a little mini D&D adventure right here that you just walked into. And it feels like every direction I turn is another one of these. It's really, really cool.
I'm loving this.
And apparently, you asked about the script stuff. There are so many different outcomes to all these quests that I don't even know if you and I played the game, if we would even have the same experience of this stuff. Sure.
Yeah, I've heard that the dialogue trees, I guess, are more like a fungal mycelial network, let's say.
I'd believe it because there's just so many ways you can approach everything, right? I mentioned that you can jump, you can fly, you can do all sorts of stuff like that. There's characters who are locked in prison for various reasons. Well, you can just get people out of prison, right?
All right.
Who's have a thief, he can lockpick, right? There's so much crazy difference. You can get locked in prison and then escape very easily because they're not going to lock you up in prison for the whole game. But after you escape,
that would be a funny game over, though. I would play.
The game
I feel like we should, right? Why not make that a game over? Sorry. Unless there's a giant bird to grab onto, right, JJ?
Hey, you never know. It could work, right? So it's just a pretty amazing experience so far. Yeah.
Does it feel more like you have your own DM, or does it more feel like you're playing a video game? Because you keep saying it's like a tabletop.
It definitely does feel like there's DMing going on about you, right? Because you're walking around and then you just see above all your character's head like perception failed, and you're like, damn it. What did I just miss?
What did I miss? Oh no.
Or you're in a conversation with another character and then it's like, Arcana failed. You're like, well, okay, something wizardy happened here. Don't know what it is. Guess we'll find out later. Or not.
I like that the checks aren't happening in the background. That's cool.
And sometimes, you'll give a you'll get a series of choices, right? So it is a video game to that degree. You can't just type whatever you want to respond. But you have a pretty large series of choices, and some of them will be like, oh, do you want to use persuasion? Do you want to use intimidation? Do you want to try and use, do you want to just like break this guy's arm, right? Like, do you want to try and play both sides against each other? What kind of options do you want to take here? But the thing they don't tell you, which is very true to D&D, is how hard any of those things are going to be beforehand.
Oh.
So, maybe that your character has points in persuasion or whatever, and probably not points in intimidation. And I think those use different stats. But you don't know, is this person open to being persuaded? Right?
Right.
And so, you'll be like, all right, I have a lot of points in intimidation. I'm going to yell at this guy, get him to back down. It'll work out. The little screen comes up. It's like, difficulty class 20. Roll your D20. Damn it. My points are not going to help me here unless I roll really good. Right.
Right.
And you may be, like you then reload the game and you go find out that persuasion check was only a DC 10. Oops. Right.
Oh.
But, and the game does let you save scum that stuff if you want to.
Oh, I guess it's the way that it is. It's fine.
But I think the game is good in that it won't kill you if you fail, right? You try to intimidate them. They go, no, you're a chump. I'm not going to listen to you. And then you can solve the problem some other way, because there are like 5 other ways to solve all these problems.
Very cool.
Nice.
Very cool. Michael,
What do I know?
I think in baking, there are not 5 ways to solve problems. Can you please describe and fill JJ in on r/didn't have eggs? Because I think we need to involve ourselves in this possibly being not just a crime for food, but maybe a crime against humanity.
JJ, sometimes people think that you can just make substitutions. And normally when you're making a recipe, like you're making yourself dinner, if you don't have an ingredient and you do have something that's, sounds good to you or feels somewhat close, you can oftentimes get away with throwing that in there. But, where general cooking is an art, baking is a science.
Yeah.
And you can't just mess with the rules. So when recipes call for eggs and you decide to use things like, carrots because you don't have eggs, I think you lose the ability to get mad when the recipe doesn't come out the way you think it should.
Things like this, JJ. This is the I didn't have eggs. One of the most recent posts. I followed the the recipe exactly. Not sure what went wrong, except that I substituted cooking sherry for rice wine due to no availability and cooked in the oven as it's winter instead of grilling. It doesn't sound like you followed the directions.
You just did something else, I see.
I read
yes, you're going to get that same flavor from your oven meat as you do from grilled.
Yeah. And with rice wine instead of sherry. Rice wine's like vinegar.
Yes, sherry is very sweet. It's like, I mean, sherry is like much closer to actual wine.
Yeah. Oh man, there's a zillion of these. I don't know that we ever need to take on the entirety of this thing. You know, we could go through here one of these weeks, or you know, like maybe every other week, and just pick our best ones and take them on.
Favorites.
Because oh man, some of them are pretty good. Things like, I often now skip to the comments first before I finish reading a recipe. Confident I have all the ingredients, I began. I did have water and pasta, ricotta and pecorino. But, you know,
I feel like that's an important ingredient missing there.
With the guidance of the tequila drinker below, I added half a cup of vodka and tequila, thinking it a better substitute than vanilla vodka. Knockwurst, not bacon, pureed tomatoes, freezer shredded bib lettuce, and because I had no parsley. I can't even finish reading this.
Lettuce, the classic substitute for parsley. Just cut up some lettuce.
Classic garnish that it is.
0-star review because I added basically a cup of vodka and tequila and lettuce on top instead of parsley. Oh my god.
I got stuck on knockwurst.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that's instead of the pecorino. I don't.
That's just they wanted meat in their pasta, I guess? Question mark?
Sounds delicious, but ingredients would cost $36 at Walmart. Get real. What?
Food does cost money sometimes.
I mean, yeah, especially if you don't have all the, like, you know, olive oil and things like that. I don't know.
Okay, I have to close this. I can't look at this.
I know, right? Isn't this the best?
What are these people
pasta alla vodka review. This was amazing and so easy to make. We don't drink, so I substituted the vodka with 5 tablespoons of water, mixed with a generous pinch of lemon juice. I also used cheddar cheese as we are vegetarian and don't eat Parmesan. This is going to be a regular for us.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I'm making a face. What?
So they made macaroni and cheese. They made macaroni and cheese as they continued to substitute along the path of making this vodka pasta. It's gonna be a regular for us.
Has Parmesan cheese, which is just cheese, and they substituted it because they're vegetarian.
Parmesan has animal rennet in it.
Okay. I don't think I knew that.
No, it's fine. It's fine to say you're vegetarian, you don't eat Parmesan. But like to be like, I went on here and I substituted everything so that I made mac and cheese instead of pasta alla vodka.
Yeah. I mean, did they leave the tomatoes in?
I don't know. This website, I could go down this rabbit hole for literally ever. And I think that once in a while, we should save some for our food crimes section, is all I'm saying.
I mean, I think you just declare this the quarantine zone that is clear that everything here is a crime.
Well, as I get older, it's definitely one of those things where it's like, I'll follow the recipe the first time just to see what the ingredients are doing, you know? And then I'll change it. But like this type of thing, I don't know.
Look, you gotta know the basics to be able to riff on them.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. And it is one thing to substitute and riff and play with ingredients when you are cooking. But when you are baking, that is a very dangerous and bad thing to do.
Wait till you find the baking recipes in there, JJ. But Michael, do we get wiser as we get older? What's the big question?
So I was just kind of curious here. So we drove up to Santa Barbara for a birthday party over the weekend. Lovely day up there on Saturday. But when you're stuck in LA traffic and there is a sleeping child in the backseat of the car, there's not much for you to do other than quietly listen to the music and watch the other drivers around you.
Oh, boy.
And so at one point, I look over and the woman in the car next to me has both hands on the wheel. She looks like she's in her late 30s, early 40s, maybe. But she is driving with driving gloves on.
Heck yes.
And I had the thought, you don't really see that much anymore, right? That's just, it's one of those things that used to be a thing. Everyone
Real
used
driving
to do
gloves,
it, and it's
like they don't cover her whole hands, like real driving gloves, or were they just
no,
like
she didn't
white
have.
gloves?
Hers were more like a pair of like daintier white gloves.
Okay, I've seen that too. That's like for the
Yeah.
sun, I think.
Yes,
just
yeah,
gonna
they
say
looked
if it's a
a
sun
little
thing.
more like sun gloves than driving gloves.
Yeah.
But the question that came to mind still kind of applies. Like, gee, you don't see that kind of thing much anymore. And then I started thinking about it, like, what other things do people do that are like holdovers from older traditions? And so that kind of got me to thinking of, well, we here at We Were Gamers are all about things that make us sound old. So I was wondering, like, what do you guys do that is a holdover from an older time that that seems kind of out of place in the modern society that we live in? So I'll throw one out to give you a second to think about it. But the first one that came to mind for me is I still balance my checkbook.
On
I'm like,
paper?
I don't do it by hand. I'm not Fred Flintstone. But that reference might actually date me even more than balancing my checkbook.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I do it digitally on Quicken, but I still balance my checkbook.
What? Hold on.
The thing that dates you more is that
tracking
you
your
write checks, apparently.
No, that's the thing, right? So like tracking your expenses in Quicken is budgeting, not balancing your checkbook.
Yeah, the thing that's
you can
bad
do
is you're
both.
writing checks, apparently. Like, that is like some boomer stuff there. Who writes checks?
Well, it's not just writing checks, right? It's like balancing my checking account.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't
Andy is.
I don't
trying
know
to
that I
fend this
follow
one
that
off because
terminology very well.
He does also something like this. I'm guessing.
I mean, I use Quicken and I use it to categorize expenses. I don't balance. See, that's the thing I'm not understanding is, right? Like I use Quicken as well. And what I use it for is to categorize expenses and then see where the expenses are. But like the account is the account, right? Like I don't need to check the value.
Yeah.
The
so
math is right.
You are not doing what Michael is doing, right? Michael is double checking the bank. Am I right there, Michael?
I mean, that's essentially what it boils down to at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Or like double checking my own, as much the bank as it is, my own bookkeeping, right? Like, is all this properly entered? Another reason why it's old fashioned, because these days you can just pull the numbers down. You can link a Quicken account to your bank and have it just pull all the numbers in.
Yeah, correct.
Do you not do that? Do you not have it auto pull the numbers in?
No, because I don't like the way that it categorizes things.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is why he thinks of it like balancing the checkbook, because he has to go through and look every expense and add it into the line. That's like you were doing it by hand, except it's a computer. That's definitely old people stuff. I don't do anything like that. I mean, I definitely feel old in that I'm always talking about like I hate Wi-Fi and I use wired internet wherever possible. I mean, I guess we're all old to some degree by having a giant desktop tower computer, right? Like that's not something a lot of people have anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still railing against digital media as much as possible, right? I still buy cartridges for my SNE for my Switch as much as possible, right? Like, and I even felt the annoyance of it when I was playing games with the kids while we were all stuck inside with COVID, and it was like, now we want to play Mario Party, now we want to play Mario Kart, now we want to play Super Mario, now we want to play, and it was like, hold on, I got to get up and go switch the cart, and I thought, Yeah, and I thought it was like maybe I should get these digitally so that I don't have to keep swapping cartridges all the time. But I don't know. I'm definitely a holdover in some aspects of that, but I do love my Steam account at the same time. So I don't know where. I'm trying to think of other places. I mean, I guess I still have a separate camera, like a non-phone camera.
Yeah, that definitely feels like something that's been relegated to like hobbyist only kind of stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Or like, I guess, professional photographers, but
Yeah. Although I did, I met at the same birthday party. I met a photography professor who was saying that he's seeing among his students like film starting to make a comeback.
Fools.
I
I could go off on that for a long time.
Future episode.
That
I really
is
could.
already a old person opinion, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is a very boomery thing to be like, let me sit you down and tell you why I have worked with film and I have worked with digital, and I had film cameras up until this year when I finally discovered and decided the cost and the benefits have now flopped in terms of where like that's the boomery thing that I could do and have that discussion.
Yeah, I wish I had a good, easy one. I know there's stuff I do that makes me old, and like I'm confident.
All right, well, we'll leave it to the people out there. Write in and tell us the things that you do that other people would say, thanks, Grandpa.
Yeah, or if you know the things that I do, tell me, because I'm not thinking of them right now. You can send those to podcast@weweregamers.com. That's podcast@weweregamers.com. Headline, JJ is old. Let's put that in there. And yeah, we'll check. We'll be interested to see all those, because I'm sure there's a bunch of like, you know what? One of it is I often catch myself thinking of when someone says something was like 30 years ago or something, I think the 70s, and that's for sure wrong.
The 90s, my man.
Oh, yeah. That's the 90s, buddy. Like cartoons that we used to watch are 30 years old, man.
Yeah, I know. But it's just like the knee-jerk
I think I have a solution.
Like 20 years ago,
this.
I think of the 80s.
I have a solution to this problem. We collectively, between this week and next week, should ask our wives what we do that makes us old. What is a habit that they have noticed that they have seen us do that is like, oh, okay, I married an old man?
Oh, I already gave mine. That was my example.
Okay.
Okay, I can do that. I'll find something.
All right, so that'll be homework for you guys.
I can't believe you don't use the automatic import feature. Why do you hate yourself?
I have tried it, and I think the problem was I started using Quicken before the automatic import got as good as it is now. And I basically came up with all my own like categories for how I like to divide things up, and the categories and the way that the automatic import breaks stuff up is basically all out of whack with my own categories.
I literally, we had a problem using one of those types of apps with the double importing, and so for a year I tried to do it in Excel by hand. And I couldn't do it. I stopped budgeting. I stopped tracking expenses because it took so flippin' long to track every credit card expense and all that sort of stuff. And then I tried categorizing them and batch inputting them. And it was just like, I need that auto input to keep me on track, because otherwise I don't do it.
Oh, yeah, with Excel, that way lies madness.
Well, I mean, it works fine. It just requires you to do work that you are already doing.